What's going on, folks? This is your boy Mitch of Mitchspiration, back with episode 5 of Shift Talk. Alright, so guys, if this is your first time on my channel, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your day, out of all your obligations to come and show my channel some love. On this channel, we talk about manhood, life, and motivation. So if those things or any of those things are important to you, I highly suggest that you like, subscribe, and definitely hit those bell notifications so you can stay in tune with everything happening on my channel. And if you're already a part of the Mitchspiration community, welcome back. This is episode 5 of Shift Talk. It's been a while. And today's topic is just something that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's near and dear to my heart because it's something that's kind of related to me, but not related to me. So today, this is just me giving the best advice that I can give to single mothers who are raising young black men, or just young men in general. But I know especially in my community, this is an important issue. So, black men as well. So for me, I've been living a life of mentorship for quite a while. I grew up having both my parents, understand what it's like to have a mom in your life and having a dad there. Obviously, we know there's situations where kids have a dad who's physically there, but not emotionally in touch with their child, socially in touch with their child. Their dad is just kind of there to just like make sure the provision and food is on the table, stuff like that. But also there are kids who have no fathers at all, right? And so I've been blessed enough to be in the space to serve as a mentor to quite a few different young people throughout my life, young men who don't have father figures or whose dads just aren't doing exactly what they need to do. Now, this isn't me trying to play dad or do anything along those lines. This is just me taking the opportunity to be that positive male role model for them so they kind of have a direction on what manhood, especially black manhood, is supposed to look like. And so it's always unfortunate when we leave our black women to take care of our boys alone, because at the end of the day, these boys have to grow up to become men. And I'm a firm believer that there are still only specific things that they're going to be able to learn and grasp as black men from a black man. And it's not to say that black women aren't doing a great job developing their sons into being great men, but I just strongly feel like, and I've witnessed it as a man who has his dad. I see how I handle issues that are different from my male friends who didn't grow up with a father, handle issues and things along those lines. Once again, not saying they're wrong for their approach, but I do believe if they have that fatherly figure in their life, they could benefit in knowing how to handle things with more of a manlier perspective, I'll say. So I just wanted to come on here today and just kind of share my heart with you guys, and hopefully you receive this in a good way. This is not to offend anybody. I just really want to encourage people. So this is me sharing my heart more today than just anything more scripted. But I always have my handy dandy laptop available because I do have some points that I want to get out. So there are some things that a lot of single black mothers who are raising boys into men ask and want to know and things along those lines. So as an active mentor and as somebody with a high history of mentoring black men, I just want to share some things from my perspective about how you can be a proactive black mom helping to raise your young black man in this particular place in time. So the first point I have is to do this. Do not raise your sons based on fear of how the world will treat them. All right? Don't raise your sons based on the fear of how the world will treat them. I know we live in a world where the stereotypes are there, the racism is there, the judgment is there. There's so much going on, and there's so much history and research and just things that are happening that are affecting black men, and there's these narratives being created about who black men are, what we're only good for doing, what we're only good for being. But as a woman, I think that as a woman raising a son, I think you have to be careful how you go about that, because this is the point. When you raise a child in fear, you can develop a child that's reactive, right? So because the police might pull unarmed black men over at a higher rate, you're going to be very prone to tell your son, this is how you need to talk to the police, which that's something that you need to do anyway. Let's get that out the way. But don't let these different fears and things you see on the media dictate your parenting style. Like, parenting is a gift from God. And if you are Christian, you should be looking at your parenting from a biblical perspective. And so that leads me to my second point. So instead of raising your sons out of fear of what society is doing towards young black men, saying about young black men, I think you should really focus on this. And the second point is raise your sons to be the greatest person they can be to add value to the world. I'm going to say that again. Raise your sons to be the greatest person that they can be to add value to the world. Every life has a purpose. And if you made the decision to bring that boy who's soon to be a man into this world, his life has a purpose. So while the reality of what life looks like for black men is in existence, there's also the reality of what your son can become. Right? And so that's where you step in as a parent, right? So it's your responsibility to show your child what can be despite what already exists. And so I would just encourage you to give your child exposure to as many different things as possible, not just sports. I know that's a big thing. As a culture, we're super athletic. We have all this giftedness, but there's more ways for your child to be a success story outside of sports. The STEM movement, science, technology, all that stuff is growing. So teach your kids how to do coding. Teach your sons about robotics. Make sure that they have a great mentality about what education can do for you. And I'm not saying education like, oh, you have to go to college. Education is just in the sense of having the desire to learn information that will make you successful. So if it requires you to go to a 4-year college, get them excited about that. If it requires them to learn a trade, get them excited about that. Education exists in and outside of the classroom. So you should always be encouraging your son to constantly be learning, right? Also, I think it's important that you open up their eyes to what other opportunities exist outside of sports, right? So the more they know, the more their wheels are turned, the more their minds are going to be kind of taking in this information and really seeing what can be for them. But also helping your sons understand their giftedness and what their talents are, because those too can be monetized, right? So that means you have to be really in touch with your child and be aware of what your child is good at, even what they're not so good at, because they still have to show improvement in those areas as well. But I think you have to be a more proactive and optimistic parent based on the world we live in. And I'm thankful that my parents allowed me to try as much as I wanted to at least once. They said, you're going to try it once. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue to do it, but you're going to try, because what we're not going to do is just allow you to just say no to everything and quit and not give effort, because success, a part of that, of being successful, is giving effort. So you need to be training your sons, especially as they walk into manhood, that effort matters, okay? So that's important. So instead of being reactive about how the world views your son, be proactive about the opportunities and the options that exist for him, because his blackness matters, his purpose in this world matters, and his future matters. So allow him to explore what his future can look like and make sure that you cultivate that future, all right? The next thing, have faith in your ability as a parent, and also have that faith regardless of whether the dad is there or not. Right? Some of you are single moms, meaning that you're the primary caretaker of your child, although you might co-parent, where there are still single moms who are the primary caretaker who don't co-parent. They're mom and dad, as they like to say. But your confidence is what's going to spearhead whatever your child's future looks like. If you don't have confidence in your ability to parent, one thing I'm learning, kids are very aware. Like, you got to stop sleeping on how aware young people are. And they're paying attention to things and little details at an earlier and earlier age. I've worked at the elementary school level before. I've seen what kids are able to take in and what they're able to learn. They're catching on to stuff really fast. So although you might have your moments where parenting is a struggle and this and that, those are moments where you can ask for help, where you can seek feedback and be humble enough to ask those questions. Because if your child witnesses that you're not confident as a parent, how can they trust you? Also, they can learn how to manipulate because of that. Don't be that parent that just floods your child and gives them everything and tries to compensate for their dad not being there by buying them things all the time. That's not what matters. At the end of the day, however much materialistic stuff you buy your kids, they're gonna forget. When your child is 25 years old, they're not gonna remember what you bought them when they were 5. Like, it's very unrealistic for that to happen. I don't remember a lot of things that have been bought for me, but what I've always remembered and cherished are the moments I had with my parents, that time. So part of that parenthood that you have to have confidence in is your ability to give time to your child. The more time you give, the more y'all learn together, the more y'all grow together. You can be socially, emotionally, physically, spiritually in tune with your child and set those foundations even stronger so they have everything that they need. So be very confident in your ability to parent. And lastly, if you have one, please try to find a reliable male resource, mentor, cousin, uncle, whoever can be that positive influence on your child. Please reach out to them and try to have that conversation and see if they'll commit to taking out time to be with your child. Now, this is what you have to understand about mentorship. Mentorship only works when the person that you're asking to extend that help is actually committed to doing it, because it's very time consuming. And there's a certain level of consistency that's involved in being a mentor. It's not, oh, well, I'll spend a day with your son this week and then 4 weeks later he don't hear from you. You have to be in a position to have somebody who has the willingness to take out time. And that needs to be discussed. I've talked to moms whose sons I mentored and been like, hey, how many times a week would you like me to reach out by phone? How many times throughout the month would you like me to spend one-on-one time with him? Are you cool with me, allowing him to travel with me? Because I do photography and different things. So allowing them to experience how your gifts and talents can work for you. Like asking all those questions and, bringing everything to the table, seeing what they can actually do for your son and if they can commit. Do not build a relationship with a mentor who cannot commit, because you're going to start setting unrealistic expectations, especially if they haven't been discussed. And then there's going to be resentment from you as the parent. And then who's suffering at the end? The child. So make sure that male resource is reliable. Number one, their life speaks to the fact that they can actually walk the walk that they're talking. Number two, that they can commit the time that it's going to take to meet the needs of your child. And lastly, that you as the parent can be in full confidence that at the end of the day, by this person being in your child's life, that they're going to grow and flourish just the way they would, whether that dad was there for them or not. All right. So those are some of the concepts that I think are super important. Like I said today, I just wanted to kind of share my heart about this. I try my best to mentor when I can, and I'm very honest and transparent. Like if I can't do it or if I don't have the time, I'm very forthcoming and very open about letting people know that, like, hey, I can mentor your son, but this is all I can commit to. So if you need more than that, you may want to look in a different direction. And I think that's super important as well. And that just allows for certain things to be understood, information to be relayed better, things along those lines. But yeah, man, like every boy deserves to have their dad. I always feel for the young men who grow up without a father. I'm fortunate, man, to have my dad in my life. And although he worked a lot of jobs and did what he had to do, he still found ways, and he was very creative. And number one, how we spent time, and two, how he created teachable moments in the time we spent together. And so for that, I'm thankful. Dad, I love you. I appreciate your influence on my life. I'm a soon-to-be father myself, and much of who I am and aspire to be as a dad is because of you. So I just want to say that publicly, Dad, that I do love you, man. And because of your influence, I've been able to be a solid mentor for a lot of young men. And I know everything that I say may not make sense to them, but I know at some point it's going to click and they're going to look back and be super fortunate that, that time was spent with me. And I'm fortunate for the times that I get to spend with the men who I have mentored or will mentor in the future. I have a son coming, so I have a very important job moving forward, and I'm just ready to invest in his life and pour into him, and not lead in fear, but lead in, who he was created to be, lead in proactivity. But shouts out to all the single moms, man. Like, I know so many of y'all on a personal level. I've engaged and built a relationship with your sons, daughters, whoever on a personal level. Y'all are really the GOAT. Like, y'all are the GOAT. I just hate that y'all have to do so much on your own, man. Like, in my head, it doesn't make sense how you're able to do it, but I know God graces you guys and strengthens you guys, and your kids don't see the sacrifices you made, the tears you cry, the days you go without so they can have, just all the things that you have to do and have chosen to do. Because while parenthood comes with obligations, just parenting in general is a choice. You have to choose the parent, the child that you chose to keep and bring into this world. So to all my single moms out there who at this moment are raising young black kings without a male to do this with, I salute y'all. I'm praying for y'all, and I'm proud of y'all, man, because like, who does that? Like, y'all are really, really that. Like, y'all are really that. So it's just amazing to see the young black men that I've been privileged to work with and how they've come out so amazing without a dad. And so, like I said before, in those moments where I'm able to step in and kind of help cultivate aspects of their life, I'm all for it, man. And so just think about those points, and let's keep this thing going, man. So like I said, number one, don't parent out of fear. That's going to make you be a reactive parent. Number two, parent out of what their child or what your child has the aspirations to be, or what they have the capacity to be, because that's going to make you a proactive parent. Also, don't have any fear in your ability to be a good parent. You were placed here for a reason. There's things you're going to learn from being a parent about yourself that you never knew existed. So being a parent is only going to better you in the long run. And lastly, if you have men in your life, if you have male influences that you can surround your sons with, I 100% advocate for that. I 100% support that. So with that being said, guys, this is my heart today. I hope you hear it. I hope you take what I have to say, especially if you're a single mom. Think about some things, pray about some things. If you have sons who are being mentored by great men, that's wonderful. If not, really take time to think about who you can put in your son's life as far as males, to just give them a more manly perspective and outlook on life. And there's no slight to you. It doesn't mean you can't do your job to make them good men, but having that male influence does help. So with that being said, that's a wrap. This has been episode 5 of Shift Talk. Thank you guys for sticking with me, and we'll be in touch soon. Peace.